Captain Alex Carter stood in the massive chamber of the Galactic Council, feeling very small among the giant alien beings that surrounded him. The room was bigger than any stadium on Earth, with floating platforms that held representatives from dozens of different worlds. Some aliens looked like giant lizards, others were made of pure energy, and a few seemed to be living rocks. All of them were staring at him with what he could only describe as amusement. Commander Lisa Brooks waited outside in their small shuttle, monitoring the meeting through the communication device in Alex's ear. She had warned him that this might not go well, but nothing could have prepared him for what he was seeing now. The aliens were not just dismissing humanity's request to join their council. They were laughing at them. Admiral Zethkar of the Vorthic Empire was the first to speak. He was a massive reptilian creature with scales that seemed to shift colors as he moved. His voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. "So the little humans want to join us," he said, his words dripping with mockery. "Tell me, Tiny One, what exactly do you bring to our great alliance? Your ships are made of metal and powered by explosions. Your weapons shoot little pieces of metal. We have seen your entire fleet, and I must say, we are not impressed." The other council members began to laugh, a sound that filled the enormous chamber like a storm. High Chancellor Miratel of the Zenthari Collective floated forward on her platform. She looked like a being made of pure light, beautiful but cold. "Admiral Zethkar is being kind," she said, her voice like music but with sharp edges. "I have studied human technology extensively. Your fastest ships take months to travel between planets. Ours can cross the galaxy in days. Your most powerful weapons can barely scratch our shields. Your computers are so primitive that our children's toys are more advanced." Alex kept his face calm, but inside he was taking careful notes. He watched as the aliens displayed holographic images of human ships on the giant screens around the chamber. They showed Earth's carriers, destroyers, and battleships, all looking very small and simple compared to the sleek alien vessels that appeared next to them. "Look at this," said Commander Voxtal of the Silicon Confederation, his rock-like body grinding as he gestured toward the displays. "They still use chemical fuel to power their ships. Chemical fuel. We stopped using such things 1,000 years ago. And their weapons, they actually fire physical projectiles. It is like watching cavemen try to fight with sticks and stones." More laughter filled the chamber. Alex noticed that not all the aliens were laughing, though. A few seemed to be studying the human ships with more interest, but they stayed quiet. The Zenthari Chancellor continued her examination of human technology. "Their communication systems are laughably slow. They use radio waves that take years to travel between stars. Their shields are nothing more than thick metal armor. Their most advanced computers are less powerful than the devices we use to control our food preparation systems." Admiral Zethkar stepped forward, his massive form casting a shadow over Alex's platform. "But perhaps," he said with a grin that showed rows of sharp teeth, "they could be useful in other ways. The Vorthic Empire is always looking for new workers. Humans seem strong enough for manual labor, and they breed quickly. Yes, I think they would make excellent slaves." The chamber erupted in more laughter. Alex felt his jaw tighten, but he forced himself to remain still. In his ear, he could hear Lisa's voice whispering updates from their shuttle. "Alex, I'm picking up some interesting chatter on their military frequencies. The Vorthic have a large fleet massing near our border. This might not be just about council membership." High Chancellor Miratel raised a hand, and the laughter slowly died down. "Of course, we cannot simply ignore the humans completely," she said. "They have shown remarkable determination in reaching this far into space with such primitive technology. Perhaps in a few hundred years, when they have learned to build proper ships and develop real weapons, they might be worthy of our attention again." Alex finally spoke, his voice steady and clear. "Honored council members, I understand your concerns about our technology. We know we have much to learn from the great civilizations represented here. All we ask is for the chance to prove that humanity can contribute to galactic peace and prosperity." Admiral Zethkar's laughter boomed through the chamber again. "Peace and prosperity? Little human, you do not understand how the galaxy works. The strong rule and the weak serve. Your species is weak. Your technology is weak. Your entire civilization is weak. There is no place for weakness in our council." The other aliens nodded in agreement. Alex could see that his mission was failing, but he continued to observe everything around him. He noticed the weapon systems on the alien ships in the displays, the way their energy shields worked, and the patterns of their fleet formations. Every detail went into his memory for later analysis. Commander Miratel began to float back to her position. "The Galactic Council has reached its decision," she announced. "Humanity's request for membership is denied. Your species lacks the technological development, military strength, and cultural sophistication required for full membership. We suggest you return to your small corner of the galaxy and perhaps try again in a few centuries." Admiral Zethkar added his own final comment. "And humans should be very careful about venturing too far from their home worlds. The galaxy can be a dangerous place for such a weak species. There are many civilizations that would see you as nothing more than resources to be harvested." The threat was clear, and Alex felt a chill run down his spine. But he bowed respectfully to the council, thanking them for their time and consideration. As he turned to leave, he could hear the aliens already talking among themselves, making jokes about human ships and discussing whether humans would be better as slaves or simply eliminated entirely. As Alex walked back to his shuttle, Lisa's voice came through his communicator again. "Alex, those Vorthic ships I mentioned are definitely moving toward our space. Long-range sensors show at least 500 vessels. They're not even trying to hide their approach." Alex reached his shuttle and sealed the door behind him. As they prepared to leave the station, he looked back at the massive alien council chamber one last time. The aliens thought they knew everything about humanity. They thought humans were weak and primitive. They had no idea how wrong they were. "Lisa," Alex said as their shuttle headed back toward human space, "send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the Council rejected our application, and tell them the Vorthic are coming. It's time to activate Shadowfall." Lisa nodded and began transmitting the coded message. As their small shuttle disappeared into the darkness of space, neither of them looked back at the alien station, where beings from across the galaxy continued to laugh about the primitive humans and their pathetic technology. General Ryan Hayes sat in the underground command center beneath Colorado Springs, staring at the holographic display that showed Captain Carter's shuttle approaching Earth. The message from the Galactic Council had arrived 3 hours ago, and Ryan had been preparing for this moment ever since. The rejection was expected, but the Vorthic threat was something they had hoped to avoid for at least another few years. Dr. Karen Foster entered the command center, her security badge glowing, with the highest clearance level possible. Behind her walked Lieutenant Jake Morrison, the best communications officer in the human fleet. Ryan had called them both here for a reason that very few people on Earth would ever know about. "General," Karen said as she approached the main table, "I received your emergency summons. I assume this is about Project Shadowfall?" Ryan nodded grimly. "The aliens rejected our council application, just as we expected. But Admiral Zethkar and his Vorthic Empire are making their move earlier than our intelligence predicted. We have maybe 72 hours before their invasion fleet reaches our outer colonies." Jake looked confused. "Sir, with respect, our defense fleets are already in position around the outer colonies. The Memphis, the Denver, and the Atlanta battle groups should be able to hold them off until reinforcements arrive. Dr. Foster smiled sadly. Lieutenant, those ships you're talking about are not our real defense fleet. They're decoys. Very expensive, very convincing decoys, but decoys nonetheless. The young officer's eyes widened. Ma'am, I don't understand. Those are real ships with real crews. I've served on the Memphis myself. General Hayes activated a new section of the holographic display. Jake, what you served on was indeed a real ship with a real crew. But it was never meant to fight a real war against advanced alien technology. For the past 50 years, every ship the galaxy has seen from humanity has been designed to look primitive and weak. We wanted the aliens to underestimate us. Dr. Foster stepped forward and began explaining what very few humans knew. When we first detected alien signals 60 years ago, our leaders made a critical decision. Instead of announcing our presence and trying to join galactic civilization immediately, we decided to watch and learn. We sent out hidden probes that studied alien technology for decades. We learned how their weapons worked, how their shields functioned, and most importantly, how they thought about warfare. The display changed to show technical diagrams of alien ships, alongside human designs that looked nothing like the vessels Jake knew. Every piece of alien technology we observed, we improved upon. Their plasma weapons led us to develop gravity cannons. Their energy shields inspired us to create adaptive armor. Their faster-than-light drives helped us build quantum tunnel generators. Jake stared at the diagrams in shock. But the ships I've seen, the ones defending our colonies, they look like upgraded versions of 21st century vessels. Because that's exactly what they are, Ryan explained. We built them specifically to fool alien observers. The nuclear reactors are real, but they're not the primary power source. The missile systems work, but they're not our main weapons. Every human ship the aliens have ever detected has hidden systems they cannot see or understand. Dr. Foster brought up another display showing construction facilities in the outer solar system. While we were showing the galaxy our primitive ships, we were building our real fleet in complete secrecy. 12 massive vessels that make alien dreadnoughts look like children's toys. Ships that can become completely invisible to any known sensor system. Ships powered by contained black holes and armed with weapons that can manipulate matter at the atomic level. The command center's main screen lit up with incoming reports from the outer colonies. Lieutenant Morrison began reading the updates. Aloud, General Vorthic forces have crossed into our territory. Colony ships from 3 different systems are reporting attacks. The aliens are broadcasting their assault across the galaxy like it's entertainment. Ryan watched the tactical display as red markers showed Vorthic ships overwhelming human defenses. The Memphis battle group was already retreating from the Proxima system, and the Denver group was taking heavy damage near Wolf 359. To any observer, it looked like humanity was being crushed by superior alien technology. Sir, Jake said, watching. The retreat orders being transmitted. Shouldn't we be sending reinforcements? Those are real people dying out there. Dr. Foster shook her head. The crews on those ships know their mission, Lieutenant. Every retreat is planned. Every defeat is calculated. We're drawing the Vorthic fleet deeper into our space, away from their escape routes, and into the perfect position for our real ships to engage them. On the main display, they could see alien news feeds celebrating the easy victory over humanity. Representatives from dozens of species were making statements about how they had known humans were too weak to survive in the galaxy. The Zenthari. Chancellor appeared on one feed, expressing mock sympathy for the inevitable extinction of the human species. Admiral Krexter, commander of the Vorthic invasion fleet, was broadcasting his own messages. Humans, his translated voice boomed across every communication channel. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Your weak shields cannot protect you. Surrender now, and some of you may live to serve the Vorthic Empire. Continue to resist, and we will turn your worlds to ash." Jake listened to the alien commander's threats with growing anger. "General, with respect, how can we just sit here and listen to this? Even if our real ships are more advanced, shouldn't we be helping those people?" Ryan placed a hand on the young officer's shoulder. "Son, every person serving on those decoy ships volunteered for this mission, knowing exactly what it meant. They're not just buying us time. They're selling the greatest deception in human history. The aliens think they're watching humanity's final defeat. They have no idea they're walking into the most sophisticated trap ever constructed." Dr. Foster pulled up another display, showing the positions of the hidden human fleet. Admiral Sam Mitchell and his 12 ships are already in position. They've been watching this invasion from the beginning, completely invisible to Vorthic sensors. Every movement the aliens make is being tracked and analyzed. The tactical display showed the Vorthic fleet's progress through human space. They were following exactly the path the human strategists had predicted, drawn forward by what appeared to be weak resistance and the promise of an easy conquest. The alien ships moved in standard formations, their commanders confident that no human weapon could threaten them. "The beauty of our plan," Ryan explained, "is that the aliens' arrogance is working against them. They're so convinced of their superiority that they're not even scanning for threats. They see our decoy ships retreating and assume they've won. They have no idea that ships far more advanced than anything in their empire are already surrounding them." Lieutenant Morrison was monitoring alien communications from across the galaxy. "Sir, the other species are placing bets on how long humanity will last. The Zenthari are giving us less than a week. Some species are already discussing how to divide up our territory after the Vorthic finish with us." Dr. Foster smiled coldly. "Let them make their plans. In 72 hours, when Admiral Mitchell's fleet reveals itself, every species in the galaxy is going to learn a very important lesson about underestimating humanity." The command center fell quiet as they watched the displays showing humanity's apparent defeat. Vorthic ships were destroying human colonies, while their commanders celebrated what they believed was an easy victory. Across the galaxy, alien species were already writing humanity's obituary. But in the hidden facilities scattered throughout the solar system, Admiral Mitchell and his crews were making final preparations for the moment when humanity would reveal its true strength. The greatest military deception in galactic history was about to reach its climax, and the aliens who had laughed at human weakness were about to discover just how wrong they had been. Admiral Sam Mitchell stood on the bridge of the USS Phantom, watching the Vorthic invasion fleet tear through human defenses on his tactical display. Around him, his crew worked in complete silence, their movements precise and practiced. The ship itself made no sound as it moved through space, its revolutionary hull design absorbing every form of energy that touched it. Captain Nicole Warren, commander of the stealth destroyer USS Wraith, appeared on the main communication screen. "Admiral, the alien fleet has taken the bait. They're following our projected course exactly. All 12 of our ships are in position and ready to engage." Sam nodded, his weathered face showing no emotion. He had been preparing for this moment for 30 years, ever since he had been selected to command humanity's secret fleet. The ships under his command represented technology so advanced that even he sometimes had trouble believing what they were capable of. Chief Engineer Paul Rivers approached from the engine section, his hands still covered in the strange fluid that the ship's systems used for maintenance. "Admiral, all systems are showing green. The singularity containment is stable, and the metamaterial hull is operating at maximum efficiency. We could stay invisible to their sensors for months if necessary." The USS Phantom was massive, 3 times the length of the largest Vorthok dreadnought, but it registered as nothing more than empty space on every sensor system the aliens possessed. Its hull was made of programmable matter that could reshape itself in response to any threat. The ship's power came from a carefully contained black hole that provided more energy than entire alien fleets could generate. "Paul," Sam said, "show me the weapon status." The engineer activated a holographic display that showed the ship's armament. Unlike the crude missiles and kinetic weapons on humanity's decoy ships, the Phantom carried weapons that seemed like magic even to its own crew. Gravity cannons that could compress matter down to the size of marbles. Temporal disruptors that could slow enemy ships to a crawl. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through any known shield technology. Dr. Foster's voice came through the communication system from Earth. "Admiral Mitchell, this is command. The Vorthok fleet is now 48 hours from Earth. Are your ships ready to execute Operation Revelation?" Sam looked around his bridge at the crew members who had trained in secret for decades. These men and women had volunteered to spend their entire careers hidden from the rest of humanity, knowing that their existence could never be acknowledged until the moment came to save their species. "Dr. Foster, we have been ready for 30 years. Captain Warren's image reappeared on the screen. "Admiral, I'm receiving reports from our other ships. The USS Shadow reports that the Vorthok are not even scanning for cloaked vessels. The USS Ghost has been flying alongside their flagship for 6 hours, and they haven't detected anything. Their arrogance is incredible." Sam smiled grimly. "Nicole, remember that their arrogance is exactly what we've been counting on. Every alien species in the galaxy believes that human technology is primitive. They see our decoy ships retreating and think they understand everything about our capabilities. They have no idea that we've been studying their technology for decades and building something far beyond anything they can imagine." Paul Rivers pulled up another display showing the technical specifications of human stealth technology. "Admiral, our metamaterial cloaking doesn't just make us invisible to sensors. It actually bends space around our ships. To their instruments, we literally do not exist. We could fire our engines at full power right next to their flagship, and they would detect nothing." The Phantom science officer, Lieutenant Commander Beth Clark, approached with her latest analysis of the alien fleet. "Sir, I've been studying their formations and tactics. They're using standard Vorthok battle doctrine from their military manuals. No adaptations, no innovations. They're so confident in their superiority that they're not even trying to be creative." Sam studied the data Beth had compiled. The Vorthok ships moved in predictable patterns, their commanders following strategies that human intelligence had been studying for decades. Every weakness in their formation had been identified and catalogued. When the time came to engage, Admiral Mitchell's fleet would know exactly where to strike for maximum effect. "Beth, what's your assessment of their technology compared to ours?" Science officer consulted her datapad. "Sir, their plasma weapons are impressive by galactic standards, but our adaptive shields can redistribute plasma energy indefinitely. Their faster-than-light drives are fast, but our quantum tunnel generators are instantaneous. Most importantly, their computers and sensors are generations behind ours. They're fighting with the equivalent of stone tools." Captain Warren interrupted. From the USS Wraith, "Admiral, we're receiving intelligence from our infiltration probes. The alien fleet commanders are already planning victory celebrations. Admiral Krexther has ordered special chambers prepared on his flagship to hold human prisoners. They're discussing which colonies to keep as slave camps and which planets to strip mine for resources." Sam felt a cold anger building in his chest. The aliens didn't just want to defeat humanity. They wanted to destroy everything humans had built and turn the survivors into property. "Nicole, make sure all ships receive that intelligence." I want every member of our crews to understand exactly what we're preventing. Dr. Foster's voice came through the communicator again. Admiral, the galactic news networks are already broadcasting victory announcements. Species across the galaxy are celebrating what they believe is humanity's final defeat. Some are already sending congratulations to the Vorthic Empire for eliminating the human problem. Paul Rivers looked up from his engineering station. Admiral, it occurs to me that we're about to give the galaxy the greatest shock in its recorded history. These aliens have spent centuries believing they understand the limits of technology and warfare. When we reveal ourselves, we're going to shatter every assumption they've ever made. Sam walked to the main viewing screen and stared out at the stars where the Vorthic fleet was advancing toward Earth. Somewhere out there, alien commanders were laughing about human weakness while planning the enslavement of his species. They had no idea that 12 ships more advanced than anything in their wildest dreams were already surrounding them. Paul, begin charging all weapon systems. Beth, prepare the sensor masking systems for shutdown. Nicole, signal all ships to prepare for Revelation Protocol. In exactly 24 hours, we're going to show the galaxy what humanity is really capable of. The USS Phantom's crew began their final preparations with quiet efficiency. Around them, 11 other stealth ships were making identical preparations. The greatest military secret in human history was about to be revealed, and the aliens who had mocked humanity as primitive were about to learn that they had been deceived by masters of deception. Chief Engineer Rivers made one final check of the ship's systems. Admiral, everything is ready. The aliens are about to discover that the species they thought was weak and primitive has been quietly building the most advanced military force in galactic history. Sam Mitchell nodded, his eyes still fixed on the stars ahead. Tomorrow, the laughter would stop. Captain Tony Garcia stood on the bridge of the USS Denver, watching the massive Vorthic fleet approach Earth's outer defense perimeter. His ship and the rest of the human decoy fleet had been retreating for 3 days, drawing the alien invaders deeper into the solar system. Around him, his crew prepared for what every being in the galaxy believed would be humanity's final battle. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez sat at her sensor station, monitoring the space around them with equipment that was far more sophisticated than the aliens realized. Captain, I'm detecting gravitational anomalies throughout the system. The Shadow Fleet is moving into position. Tony nodded, maintaining his outward appearance of desperate determination, while inside feeling a calm confidence that the aliens could never understand. His ship was real, his crew was real, but their mission had always been to provide the perfect cover for humanity's true strength. Admiral, Crexther's massive flagship dominated the center of the Vorthac formation, its hull bristling with plasma cannons and energy weapons. The alien commander opened a communication channel that broadcast across the entire system and beyond, reaching every corner of galactic civilization. Humans, Crexther's voice boomed through space, translated into dozens of languages for the entertainment of alien audiences. You have fought bravely with your primitive weapons, but your defeat was inevitable from the moment you dared to resist the Vorthic Empire. I offer you one final chance to surrender. Submit to our rule, and some of you may live to serve us. Continue this pointless resistance, and we will reduce your homeworld to burning ash. Across the galaxy, alien species watched the broadcast with fascination. In the Xanthari council chambers, High Chancellor Miratel observed the proceedings with cold satisfaction. The humans exceeded my expectations by lasting this long, she commented to her advisors. Perhaps they will provide more entertainment value as slaves than I originally calculated. On the bridge of the USS Denver, Tony Garcia activated his own communication system. Admiral Crexther, this is Captain Garcia of the Terran Defense Force. We reject your demands. Humanity will never surrender to an invasion force. no matter how advanced your technology might be. Crexter's laughter echoed through space. Captain Garcia, your courage is admirable but foolish. Look around you. Your fleet consists of metal boxes powered by chemical explosions. My ships harness the power of stars themselves. Your weapons cannot even scratch our shields. This is not a battle. This is an execution. Lieutenant Rodriguez suddenly stiffened at her station. Captain, I'm reading massive space-time distortions forming around the Vorthic fleet. Something very large is about to decloak. Tony smiled, though he kept his expression hidden from the alien sensors that were undoubtedly watching him. Admiral Crexter, you're absolutely right about one thing. This is not a battle. But you're wrong about who is about to be executed. The space around the Vorthic fleet began to ripple and bend, as if reality itself was being twisted by invisible forces. Admiral Crexter's tactical officers reported strange readings on their instruments, but their primitive sensors could not identify the source of the disturbances. What are these readings? Crexter demanded. Human ships cannot generate gravitational fields of this magnitude. Amy Rodriguez watched her displays with growing excitement. Captain, 12 massive objects are beginning to materialize. The Shadow Fleet is decloaking. The first human stealth ship appeared like a ghost materializing from empty space. The USS Phantom slowly became visible, its hull shimmering with energy that seemed to bend light around it. The alien crews stared, in shock as the massive vessel revealed itself directly above their flagship, dwarfing even the largest Vorthic dreadnought. Impossible, Crexter whispered, his confidence evaporating as he stared at the enormous human ship that had somehow appeared from nowhere. The USS Wraith decloaked off the port side of the alien formation, followed by the USS Shadow on the starboard flank. One by one, 12 massive human vessels revealed themselves, each one positioned perfectly to trap the Vorthic fleet in an inescapable formation. The ships that appeared bore no resemblance to the primitive human vessels the aliens had been fighting. These were sleek, advanced warships that seemed to operate by principles of technology the aliens had never imagined. Admiral Sam Mitchell's voice cut through every communication channel in the system, reaching not just the Vorthic fleet, but every alien civilization monitoring the battle. This is Admiral Sam Mitchell of the Terran Defense Force. You are surrounded by the 12th Fleet of the Human Shadow Navy. Your invasion fleet is completely trapped, and your technology is no match for ours. You have 10 seconds to surrender. All weapons and prepare to be boarded. The galactic audience watching the broadcast fell into stunned silence. Species that had been celebrating humanity's defeat moments earlier now stared at their screens in disbelief. The primitive humans they had mocked possessed ships that made their own technology look like ancient relics. High Chancellor Miratel stood frozen in her console chamber, her energy-based form flickering with shock. This is impossible, she said to no one in particular. Human technology cannot be this advanced. We have monitored their development for decades. Admiral Crexter recovered his voice and activated his weapon systems. All ships, open fire, destroy these human vessels. The Vorthic fleet unleashed everything they had. Hundreds of plasma cannons fired simultaneously, creating a light show that could be seen from several star systems away. Energy beams that could melt through solid rock struck the human ships with devastating force. The plasma weapons simply disappeared as they hit the human vessels, absorbed by hull materials that adapted instantly to every form of attack. The USS Phantom didn't even slow down as dozens of the most powerful weapons in the Vorthic arsenal struck its adaptive armor. Our weapons are having no effect, reported Crexter's tactical officer. The human ships are absorbing every form of energy we're directing at them. Admiral Mitchell's voice returned, calm and measured. Admiral Crexter, That was your free demonstration. Now let me show you what human weapons can do. The USS Phantom's main gravity cannon powered up, creating a visible distortion in space itself. The weapon fired once, and the massive Vorthik battlecruiser Iron Fang simply collapsed in on itself, its hull compressed into a sphere the size of a basketball. The crew vanished in a flash of light as the ship's emergency teleportation systems beamed them to holding cells aboard the human vessels. The alien fleet stopped firing, their crews staring in horror at what remained of one of their most powerful warships. The technology they had just witnessed was beyond anything in their understanding of physics. "Surrender now," Admiral Mitchell commanded, "or I will demonstrate our full capabilities on your flagship." Admiral Krexther looked around at his fleet, trapped and helpless against technology that seemed like magic. His ships that had seemed so powerful when destroying human colonies now looked like toys compared to the massive human vessels surrounding them. "All ships," Krexther said quietly, "stand down weapons and prepare to surrender." Across the galaxy, alien species watched in shock as the most powerful invasion fleet in Vorthik history surrendered without firing another shot. The humans they had dismissed as primitive had revealed technology that surpassed every advanced civilization in known space. Captain Garcia smiled as he watched the alien ships powering down their weapons. "Admiral Mitchell, this is Captain Garcia. Mission accomplished. The galaxy just learned that humanity is not the weak species they thought we were." Amy Rodriguez looked up from her sensor station, her eyes bright with pride. "Captain, I'm receiving surrender signals from the entire Vorthik fleet. And sir, communication requests are flooding in from every major alien civilization. I think they want to talk." Tony nodded, watching as human ships that had been hiding in plain sight for decades finally revealed themselves to a galaxy that would never underestimate humanity again. President Diana Cole stood in the Oval Office, watching the live broadcast from the solar system's edge, where Admiral Mitchell's fleet had just captured the entire Vorthik invasion force. Around her, the most senior leaders of Earth's government were struggling to process what they were seeing. The aliens who had dismissed humanity as primitive are now begging to speak with human representatives. Ambassador Rick Johnson, humanity's new diplomatic envoy, entered the room carrying a datapad filled with communication requests from alien civilizations across the galaxy. "Madam President, we're receiving surrender offers from 17 different species that were allied with the Vorthik Empire. The Zenthari Collective has requested an immediate emergency meeting. Even the Silicon Confederation, which barely acknowledged our existence yesterday, is asking for trade negotiations." Diana nodded, her expression calm despite the magnitude of what was happening. "Rick, before we respond to any of these requests, I want you to address the Galactic Council directly. Make it clear that humanity is not interested in joining their organization. We're offering them something better." On the main display, Admiral Mitchell's voice could be heard giving orders to his fleet as they processed thousands of alien prisoners. The Vorthik crews were being held in comfortable detention facilities aboard the human ships, while their vessels were being systematically studied and catalogued. Commander Lisa Stone, first officer of the USS Phantom, appeared on the communication screen. "Madam President, Admiral Mitchell requests permission to begin Phase 2 of the Revelation Protocol. We have alien news networks requesting interviews, and several species are asking for technological demonstrations." Diana smiled. "Tell the Admiral to proceed. It's time for the galaxy to understand the full scope of what they're dealing with." The President activated the global broadcast system, addressing not just humanity, but every alien civilization monitoring human communications. "People of Earth and beings of the galaxy, today marks the beginning of a new era. For decades, our species chose to appear weak while building strength. We allowed others to underestimate us, while we learned from their technology and surpassed it. The time for deception is over. Ambassador Johnson began transmitting humanity's new position to the galactic community. Instead of requesting membership in existing organizations, humans were offering protection services to any species willing to abandon aggressive expansion and respect the rights of other civilizations. High Chancellor Miratel of the Zentari Collective was among the first to respond. Her energy-based form flickered nervously as she addressed the human ambassador. Ambassador Johnson, the Zentari Collective wishes to formally apologize for our previous dismissal of human capabilities. We request immediate negotiations for a mutual defense agreement. Rick Johnson's response was measured and professional. Chancellor Miratel, humanity appreciates your interest in diplomatic relations. However, any agreement with the Zentari Collective will require your government to cease all territorial expansion activities and to provide reparations to species or empire has conquered in the past 50 years. The Chancellor's form brightened with surprise. Ambassador, surely you cannot expect us to simply abandon our legitimate territorial claims. I can, and I do, Rick replied calmly. The galaxy has operated under the principle that might makes right for too long. Humanity possesses the technology to enforce a new standard of galactic behavior. Species that wish our protection must demonstrate that they deserve it. Admiral Mitchell's fleet began the next phase of their demonstration. Human ships moved through the solar system with impossible grace, their quantum tunnel drives allowing them to appear instantly at any location they chose. The alien observers watching could barely track their movements. Commander Stone coordinated the technological displays from her position aboard the Phantom. All ships begin demonstration sequence Alpha. Show them what our medical technology can do. The human fleet transmitted data about their medical advances to every major alien civilization. Technologies that could regrow lost limbs, cure diseases at the genetic level, and extend lifespans far beyond what any alien species had achieved. The information sent shockwaves through galactic scientific communities. Dr. Foster's voice came through the communication system from Earth. President Cole were receiving requests for medical assistance from 43 different worlds. Apparently, several species have diseases and genetic disorders that our technology can cure easily. Diana considered the requests carefully. Begin providing medical aid immediately, but make it clear that our assistance comes with expectations. Any species that receives human medical technology must agree to our behavioral standards. The demonstration continued with displays of human agricultural technology, farming techniques that could turn desert worlds into gardens, food production systems that could feed billions without environmental damage, and terraforming capabilities that could make dead planets habitable within decades. Captain Alex Carter recently returned from his humiliating appearance before the Galactic Council, now found himself addressing the same aliens who had mocked him days earlier. Honored representatives, when I appeared before your council, you dismissed humanity as too primitive to join your organization. Today, I'm here to offer you the chance to join ours. Admiral Zethkar of the Vorthic Empire, now a prisoner aboard. A human vessel, but allowed to communicate, spoke with a voice filled with disbelief. Captain Carter, how did your species advance so far beyond our detection? Our intelligence networks monitor every civilization in the galaxy. Alex smiled. Admiral, you monitored what we wanted you to monitor, while you were watching our decoy ships and laughing at our primitive technology. Our real scientists were developing systems that your intelligence networks couldn't even detect. We've been studying alien technology for 60 years, and we've improved upon everything we've learned. The galactic response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had ignored humanity for decades were now offering technological exchanges, military alliances, and economic partnerships. The tables had completely turned. with alien civilizations desperate to gain favor with the humans they had previously dismissed. President Cole addressed the galaxy one final time. To all alien civilizations monitoring this broadcast, humanity extends an offer of partnership based on mutual respect and peaceful coexistence. We will share our medical technology, our agricultural advances, and our defensive capabilities with any species willing to renounce conquest and aggression. Those who choose to continue the old ways of galactic expansion through force will find themselves facing the combined opposition of humanity and our allies. Commander Stone reported from the fleet. Madam President, I'm receiving formal surrender. Documents from the Vorthic Empire, along with agreements to pay reparations to every species they've attacked in the past century. The Zenthari Collective has agreed to release all conquered territories and provide compensation to displaced populations. 17 other species have signed preliminary agreements to join our protection network. Ambassador Johnson reviewed the flood of diplomatic communications. President Cole, it appears that our revelation has fundamentally changed galactic politics. Species that have been enemies for centuries are now working together to meet our behavioral standards. The threat of facing human military technology has made them more willing to resolve conflicts peacefully. Diana nodded with satisfaction. That was always the plan, Rick. Sometimes the best way to achieve peace is to make war too costly for anyone to consider. The broadcast concluded with footage of human ships patrolling the galaxy, their advanced technology ensuring that aggressive species would think twice before attacking their neighbors. The aliens who had once laughed at humanity now slept safely under the protection of the species they had underestimated. In schools across the galaxy, alien children would learn about the great revelation and how humanity had taught the universe that true strength came not from superior weapons or advanced technology, but from the wisdom to appear weak while building the power to protect others. The laughing had stopped, and a new era of galactic peace had begun under the watchful eyes of the humans who had hidden their strength until the moment it was needed most.
The galaxy laughed at human warfare until Earth's veterans entered the battle part. The massive alien ship appeared over Earth without warning. It hung in the sky like a silver mountain, its polished hull reflecting the clouds below. Governments around the world scrambled their jets, but before they could take off, every screen on the planet lit up with the same message. Greetings, humans. We come in peace. That was 3 months ago. Now Laura Mitchell stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Confederacy's flagship, trying not to look impressed. As Earth's ambassador, she needed to project strength. The aliens already thought of humans as weak. Ambassador Mitchell, please join us, called Admiral Zexthal, his blue scales shimmering under the bright lights. The Admiral was a Xylorian, the dominant species in the Confederacy. He stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 arms and eyes that never seemed to blink. Laura walked forward, her dress uniform feeling too tight around the neck. Next to her, Navy Captain John Carter kept his face carefully neutral. They were here to negotiate Earth's entry into the galactic community, but so far the terms had been insulting. We have reviewed your military capabilities, Admiral Zexthal said, his translator making his voice sound metallic. Quite amusing. A ripple of chittering sounds, alien laughter spread through the room. At least 30 different species were present, all looking at the humans with various expressions of amusement or pity. Our weapons are adequate for our needs, Captain Carter said stiffly. Admiral Zexthal picked up a human pistol from a display table. Projectile weapons? The galaxy moved beyond such toys 10,000 years ago. He dropped it with a clatter. And your ships, they cannot even break light speed without our help. Laura tried diplomacy. We understand we have much to learn. That's why joining the Confederacy would benefit both parties. Benefit? A thin alien with gray skin and large eyes stepped forward. What benefit could you offer? Your planet will be accepted, but only as a Tier 3 member world. You may trade basic resources and receive limited technology. Nothing more. Captain Carter's jaw tightened. Laura could tell he was angry. The Confederacy was offering Earth the lowest membership level possible, barely better than being classified as a primitive world. "We have other skills to offer," Laura said carefully. "Humans are adaptable, creative." "Yes, yes," Admiral Zexthal waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. "All species say this, but let me show you something." A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a Confederacy ship firing energy beams at an asteroid, vaporizing it instantly. "Standard Confederacy shield technology makes your bullets and missiles useless," the Admiral said. "Our smallest scout ships could defeat your entire planetary fleet." More alien laughter filled the room. Laura felt her cheeks getting hot. NT. Older human man stepped forward from behind them. He hadn't spoken during the negotiations before. His name was Frank Miller, and Laura only knew he was some kind of military advisor assigned to their team. "If I may ask," Frank said politely, "how many wars has the Confederacy fought in the last 100 years?" The question seemed to surprise Admiral Zexthal. 3 major conflicts and several minor police actions. Frank nodded. "And before your species developed energy shields, how did you fight?" "That was millennia ago," the Admiral replied impatiently. "Humans have fought over 150 major wars just in the last century," Frank said quietly. "We've had to become good at it." The room grew quiet. Laura studied Frank more carefully. His simple gray suit hid his background, but she noticed old scars on his hands and the way he scanned every room he entered. This man had seen combat. "An impressive number," the Admiral finally said. "But quantity does not equal quality. Your conflicts were limited to 1 planet. Simple affairs compared to galactic warfare." Frank simply nodded and stepped back, but Laura noticed several aliens looking at the humans with renewed interest. The negotiations concluded with Earth accepting the Tier 3 membership. It was better than nothing. As they prepared to return to their temporary quarters, an aide rushed into the room. "Admiral, urgent news from the rim sectors." The Admiral read something on a transparent tablet, his face darkening. He barked orders in his native language before the translator could catch up. "What's happening?" Laura asked one of the friendlier aliens, a furred creature named Veltox. "Harvester ships have been spotted past the outer beacons," Veltox whispered. "Bad news." "Harvesters?" "They come from beyond the galaxy's edge. They don't conquer, they consume. Entire planets stripped of resources. We fought them back 30 years ago, but if they've returned..." Later that night, Laura found Frank Miller alone on an observation deck looking at the stars. "You're not just a military advisor, are you?" she asked. Frank smiled slightly. "I was a soldier for 40 years. Fought in every major conflict since the Water Wars." "Why didn't you speak up more during the negotiations?" "Because they wouldn't have listened." Frank pointed to a distant star. "Pride is a weakness. The Confederacy believes technology makes them superior. They've forgotten what it means to be outmatched and still find a way to win." "You think we could beat them? Their ships can vaporize mountains." Frank shook his head. "Not with our current technology. But war isn't just about who has the biggest gun. It's about how you think, how you adapt, how far you're willing to go to survive." An alarm suddenly blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Over the next few days, Laura and Captain Carter observed the growing panic among the Confederacy officials. The Harvesters had destroyed 2 outer colonies already. The Confederacy fleet was mobilizing, but reports suggested their standard tactics weren't working. During an emergency council meeting, Admiral Zexthal reluctantly addressed the human delegation. "These harvester vessels," Captain Carter asked, studying the holographic images, "they adapt to your weapons during battle?" "Unfortunately, yes," the Admiral admitted. "Their ships are partially organic. They learn from each encounter." Frank Miller, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. Again, "On Earth we have a saying, 'The enemy of my enemy is my friend.' Perhaps this is an opportunity to show you what humans can offer the Confederacy." "What could you possibly offer against this threat?" The Admiral scoffed. Frank smiled. A smile. That didn't reach his eyes. Let us bring in some of our veterans. People who have spent their lives thinking about how to defeat superior forces. You might be surprised. The Admiral looked ready to dismiss the idea, but another alien, a high-ranking general, spoke up. The Harvester fleet will reach Proxima Centauri in 2 weeks. If they take that gateway, Earth will be directly exposed. She looked at Frank with all 4 of her eyes. What exactly do you propose? 50 advisors. Battle-hardened soldiers who understand adaptive warfare. Let them observe and suggest. What do you have to lose? The council erupted in argument, but Laura could see the seed had been planted. For the first time, the Confederacy was considering that maybe, just maybe, the primitive humans might know something they didn't. Frank caught her eye across the room and nodded slightly. The galaxy had laughed at human warfare. They wouldn't be laughing much longer. The galaxy laughed at human warfare until Earth's veterans entered the battle part. 6 months had passed since Earth joined the Confederacy. The Harvester threat had grown from a distant worry to a full-scale invasion. Their massive ships, part machine and part living organism, tore through space like hungry sharks. Captain Samantha Reeves stood on the bridge of the ESD Valor, Earth's newest starship. Though impressive by human standards, it was small compared to Confederate vessels. The ship had been built using some alien technology, but still relied heavily on human design principles. Another defeat at Sigma 9, her communications officer reported. Confederate forces retreating to fallback position. Samantha frowned. The Confederacy's military followed the same patterns in every battle. They formed neat lines, advanced with overwhelming force, and expected the enemy to be intimidated. But the Harvesters weren't like other enemies. They didn't care about displays of power or perfect formations. Show me the battle reports, she said. The screen filled with data. Samantha had fought in the resource wars back on Earth. She'd led troops against enemies with better equipment and larger numbers. Something about the Harvester tactics seemed familiar to her. They're operating like a hive, she muttered. Predictable at the strategic level, but chaotic up close. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Paul Jackson, nodded. Like army ants, the individual doesn't matter, only the collective goal. The ship's communication system buzzed. It was a direct call from Earth Security Directorate headquarters. Captain Reeves, said the stern face of General Patricia Howard. Proxima Centauri has fallen. The gateway is lost. Samantha felt a chill. Proxima Centauri was the nearest star system to Earth, with the main transportation hub that connected human space to the rest of the Confederacy. The Harvesters will reach our solar system in less than a month, General Howard continued. The Confederacy has finally agreed to accept our help, not that they had much choice. What kind of help are we offering? Samantha asked. We're sending 50 veterans as advisors. General Alan Foster will lead them. Samantha knew Foster by reputation. He had fought in more conflicts than most soldiers had years of service. These advisors will be spread throughout the Confederate fleet, General Howard explained. You'll be getting one too. The Valor is being assigned to a defense cluster near Helix 4. The general's expression softened slightly. This is our chance, Captain. Show them what humans can do. 3 days later, Samantha welcomed her new advisor aboard. Colonel Frank Miller looked older in person than in his file photo. His face was weathered, with deep lines around his eyes. But those eyes were sharp, missing nothing. Captain Reeves, he said, shaking her hand. Pleasure to be aboard. You were with the diplomatic team that first met the Confederacy, Samantha noted. Frank smiled slightly. I was. Watched them laugh at our primitive weapons. Not laughing so much now. Valor joined a Confederate defense group led by the cruiser Celestial Guardian. The alien Captain Drazkel made it clear he didn't want human advice. You will observe only, he told Frank and Samantha during the first briefing. The Valor will take position at the rear of our formation. Frank didn't argue. He simply watched and listened as the Confederate officers discussed their battle plans. Later, in the privacy of the Valor's briefing room, Frank shook his head. They still don't get it. The Harvesters adapt to energy weapons within minutes of exposure, yet the Confederacy keeps using the same tactics. Why don't they change? Lieutenant Jackson asked. Because they've never had to, Frank replied. Their technology has always been superior. They don't understand fighting at a disadvantage. Samantha studied the star charts. Helix 4 has a dense asteroid ring. We could use that. Frank's eyes lit up. Now you're thinking like a human soldier. When the first Harvester scout ship entered the Helix system, Samantha made a decision. The Valor broke formation without permission, heading toward the asteroid ring. Captain Reeves! Drazkel's angry face appeared on the screen. Return to your assigned position immediately. With respect, Captain, Samantha replied. I'm positioning my ship where it can be most effective. This is insubordination. Frank stepped into view. Captain Drazkel, the Harvesters will detect your energy signatures from half a system away. Your current formation is asking to be attacked. Our shields will protect us, Drazkel insisted. Like they protected Proxima Centauri? Frank asked quietly. The alien captain's face darkened, but he didn't reply. The Valor powered down most of its systems and drifted into the asteroid field. Samantha ordered mining charges placed on several large rocks. What exactly are we doing? Asked her tactical officer. Frank explained. Classic guerrilla tactic. When you're outgunned, you don't stand and fight. You hide, you wait, and you strike where they don't expect it. Hours passed. 2 more Harvester ships joined the first. They moved directly toward the Celestial Guardian and its support ships, ignoring the powered-down Valor. They're scanning the Confederate ships, Lieutenant Jackson reported, adapting to their shield frequencies already. The first shots were fired. Energy beams from the Harvesters sliced through Confederate defenses like they weren't there. Now, Samantha ordered. The Valor's crew detonated the mining charges. The explosion sent asteroids tumbling toward the Harvester ships from behind. At the same moment, the Valor powered up and fired its main guns. Not energy weapons, but modified railguns firing solid slugs at near-light speed. The Harvesters, focused on the Confederate ships and their energy weapons, were caught completely by surprise. The asteroids damaged one ship's propulsion system. The Valor's projectiles tore through another's hull before its adaptive defenses could respond. All Confederate ships, change course heading 2-on-27 Mark IV, Samantha broadcast. Move into the asteroid field. Use irregular patterns. To her surprise, Drazkel complied. The Confederate ships scattered, taking cover among the asteroids just as the Valor had done. Fire only projectile weapons, Frank advised. If you must use energy weapons, constantly vary the frequencies. What followed was nothing like the orderly battles the Confederacy was used to. It was chaotic, dirty fighting. Ships darted between asteroids, firing from hiding, then moving quickly. The Harvesters, used to enemies that stood their ground, struggled to adapt. 2 hours later, the battle was over. The Harvester ships retreated, one of them severely damaged. The Valor docked with the Celestial Guardian for a debriefing. Captain, Drazkel's attitude had changed. Your tactics, he said to Samantha and Frank, they were unexpected, unorthodox. Human tactics, Frank corrected. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years, sometimes with sticks and stones, sometimes with nuclear weapons. We've learned to adapt to anything. The Confederacy has much to learn from Earth, it seems, Drazkel admitted reluctantly. As they returned to the Valor, Samantha received a message from Earth. The small victory at Helix the 4 was being noticed. More Confederate captains were requesting human advisors. And on Earth, scientists had made a breakthrough studying captured Harvester technology. The enemy's adaptive capability had a weakness. It was designed primarily for energy weapons, not physical projectiles. We're modifying all our ships with railguns, General Howard told her. Old technology, but sometimes old is exactly what you need. Frank Miller smiled when he heard the news. The galaxy laughed at human warfare, he said. They won't be laughing much longer. The galaxy laughed at human warfare until Earth's veterans entered the battle part. 3 news of the victory at Helix 4 spread quickly through the Confederacy. Most alien commanders dismissed it as luck, but a few younger officers began asking questions about human tactics. On the Confederate command ship Eternal Vigilance, General Alan Foster sat through another frustrating meeting. The Confederate High Command still refused to fully embrace human strategies. "One small victory does not prove your methods are superior," said Supreme Commander Thrix, a tall insectoid alien with compound eyes that reflected the room's lights in 1,000 tiny mirrors. "The Confederacy has defended the galaxy for 10,000 years. And in all that time," Alan replied calmly, "you've never faced an enemy like the Harvesters." Alan was a stocky man with gray hair cut short in military style. At 62, he had more combat experience than anyone else in the room, human or alien. His weathered face showed the scars of battles fought across Earth's war zones. "Your energy weapons become less effective with each encounter," he continued. "The Harvesters adapt too quickly." Admiral Zexthal, who had once mocked human warfare, now seemed less certain. "What do you propose, General? Stop fighting like the Confederacy and start fighting like humans." The alien commanders exchanged glances. "Explain," Supreme Commander Thrix said. Alan stood and walked to the holographic display showing the latest Harvester advances. Their forces had taken 12 more systems since Proxima Centauri fell. "The Harvesters expect you to follow your standard tactics, direct confrontation, rigid formations, overwhelming firepower. So stop doing what they expect." He waved his hand and the display changed to show the Bellatrix star system. "Your next major defensive line." "Correct," Admiral Zexthal said. "We've positioned 200 ships to defend Bellatrix Prime in a perfect defensive sphere around the planet," Alan noted. "Beautiful formation, completely predictable." Before the Admiral could object, Alan continued. "Earth is ready to deploy 15 ships equipped with modified railguns and projectile weapons. Let us join the defense of Bellatrix Prime." The alien. Commanders debated among themselves in their own languages. Finally, Supreme Commander Thrix spoke. "Your ships may join the defense, but they will remain at the rear of our formation." Alan nodded, hiding his frustration. The Confederate military was too rigid to change quickly. They would need to see more proof. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Eric Washington led a team studying Harvester technology. They had been working day and night since samples were recovered from the battle at Helix 4. Eric was a brilliant scientist who had designed weapons during Earth's resource wars. Now, surrounded by alien technology far beyond human science, he looked for weaknesses that others might miss. "The Harvesters use an organic technological hybrid system," he explained to Admiral Pete Johnson of the Earth Security Directorate. "Their adaptive capabilities are impressive, but focused almost entirely on energy-based attacks. Because that's all the Confederacy has used against them for centuries," the Admiral said. "Exactly." Eric pointed to a microscope display showing Harvester material samples. "Their defenses analyze energy signatures and quickly adapt. But physical projectiles, especially with irregular compositions, confuse their systems." The Admiral looked thoughtful. "How quickly can we retrofit our entire fleet?" "We have 5 ships ready now, another 10 within 2 weeks. Make it happen," the Admiral ordered, "and send word to General Foster. The Earth ships assigned to Bellatrix Prime need this upgrade immediately." 2 weeks later, the ESD Intrepid approached Bellatrix Prime, leading a small fleet of Earth vessels. Commander William Dawson watched the massive Confederate fleet on his view screen. Their ships formed a perfect sphere around the planet, just as General Foster had described. William was a veteran of the Arctic campaign, where outnumbered human forces had used the harsh environment to defeat a technologically superior enemy. The memory gave him an idea. "Sensors, what's the composition of that nebula near Bellatrix Prime?" he asked. "Heavy hydrogen and metal particles, sir. Significant electromagnetic interference." William nodded. "Perfect." When the Harvester fleet arrived, it was 3 times larger than expected. Their massive bioships moved toward Bellatrix Prime with frightening speed and purpose. The Confederate fleet opened fire with their energy weapons. For a few minutes, the barrage seemed effective. Then, as had happened in every previous battle, the Harvester ships adapted. Their organic hulls developed new patterns that absorbed or reflected the energy attacks. The Confederate formation began to break as ships were destroyed one by one. Aboard the Eternal Vigilance, General Foster watched the battle with growing concern. The Confederate commanders were following their standard tactics despite all his warnings. "Sir," a human communications officer called out, "Commander Dawson of the Intrepid is requesting permission to break formation." Foster glanced at Supreme Commander Thrix, who was busy giving orders to hold the defensive line. "Tell Dawson he has my authorization," Foster said quietly. "Execute Plan Omega." On the Intrepid, William Dawson received the message and smiled grimly. "All Earth vessels, this is Commander Dawson. Break formation and follow the Intrepid. We're going hunting." The small Earth fleet peeled away from the main Confederate formation. Instead of retreating, they headed toward the nearby nebula. "What are they doing?" Admiral Zexthal demanded, noticing the movement on his display. "Saving your planet if we're lucky," General Foster replied. The Earth ships disappeared into the nebula. The harvesters, focused on the main Confederate fleet, didn't pursue them. Inside the nebula, the Earth ships powered down all non-essential systems. The electromagnetic interference masked their energy signatures. "All ships, prepare new projectile weapons," William ordered. "Variable composition rounds with depleted uranium cores, set for maximum penetration." The Earth fleet moved silently through the nebula, emerging behind the harvester forces. The enemy ships, their adaptive defenses focused forward on the Confederate. Energy weapons were completely exposed from behind. "All ships fire at will," William commanded. Railguns and mass accelerators launched solid projectiles at near-light speed. The rounds tore through the harvester bioships, causing massive damage before their adaptive systems could respond. The sudden attack from behind threw the harvester fleet into confusion. As they tried to turn and face this new threat, the Confederate ships pressed their attack from the front. General Foster seized the opportunity. He grabbed the communication system on the command deck. "All Confederate ships, this is General Alan Foster. Break your formation. Attack in random patterns. Vary your weapon frequencies constantly." Supreme Commander Thrix stared at the human in shock, but didn't stop him. The battle was already lost using Confederate tactics. What did they have to lose? Surprisingly, many Confederate captains obeyed. Their ships broke the perfect formation and began attacking from multiple angles, changing their weapon settings frequently. Between the projectile weapons of the Earth fleet and the newly chaotic Confederate attack, the harvesters couldn't adapt quickly enough. For the first time since the invasion began, the Confederacy had found an effective strategy. After 3 hours of intense fighting, the remaining harvester ships retreated. Bellatrix Prime was saved. On the command deck of the Eternal Vigilance, Supreme Commander Thrix approached General Foster. "Your tactics," the alien commander said, his voice translator struggling to convey his mix of emotions. "They were disorderly, unpredictable, wasteful, but effective," Foster pointed out. "Yes," Thrix admitted. "Effective." The victory at Bellatrix Prime marked a turning point. Human veterans were no longer kept at the rear. They were moved to the front lines, given real authority to implement their strategies. And on Earth, Dr. Washington's team worked day and night to produce more of the specialized ammunition that had proven so effective against the harvesters. The galaxy had stopped laughing at human warfare. Now they were starting to learn from it. The galaxy laughed at human warfare until Earth's veterans entered the battle part. For 1 month after the victory at Bellatrix Prime, the war had changed. Human veterans now served on every major Confederate vessel. Their advice was no longer ignored but eagerly sought. Lieutenant Kate Miller sat in the officers' mess of the Confederate cruiser Stellar Might. The ship's alien crew had been cold toward her when she first came aboard. Now they saved her a seat at their table. "Tell us again about the tunnel warfare and the resource wars," asked Drex, a young Xylorian officer. His scales were still bright blue, a sign of youth. Kate smiled. She had fought in the tunnels under the Sahara when she was barely 20. Now those painful memories were helping to save the galaxy. "When you fight in darkness," she explained, "you learn to use all your senses. You listen for the smallest sounds. You feel the air move when an enemy gets close. Most importantly, You learn to be patient. The alien officers listened carefully. Confederate training had never emphasized such skills. They fought from a distance with powerful energy weapons and perfect formations. The idea of close combat, of using all your senses, was new to them. The ship's captain approached their table. Captain Velkar was older than most Confederate officers, with battle scars that had dulled his scales. "Lieutenant Miller, may I speak with you privately?" he asked. In the captain's quarters, Velkar showed her a star map. A large harvester fleet was gathering near the Orion Nebula. "Intelligence suggests they are planning to attack our manufacturing world of Kaldor Prime." The captain said, "If they capture its shipyards, they could double their fleet size within weeks." Kate studied the map. "They expect you to defend the planet directly." "That is our standard protocol, yes." "Then don't." The captain's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Humans have a saying, don't fight the battle your enemy wants you to fight." Kate pointed to a nearby asteroid field. "Position your forces here instead. Let them think Kaldor Prime is poorly defended." "Allow them to reach the planet?" Velkar sounded shocked. "Not exactly." Kate smiled. "We set a trap." 3 days later, Admiral Susan Hayes arrived at Kaldor, Prime aboard the ESD Defender. At 58, she was one of Earth's most decorated naval officers. The Confederate High Command had finally requested a human admiral to coordinate their forces. Susan was a tall woman, with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform was simpler than the ornate outfits worn by Confederate officers, but no one questioned her authority. The local Confederate commander, Admiral Zex Thal, greeted her with more respect than when they had first met months earlier. "Admiral Hayes," he said, bowing slightly. "We have positioned our fleet as Lieutenant Miller suggested." Susan nodded. "Show me." The star map revealed Confederate ships hiding in the asteroid field. Only a small defensive force remained around Kaldor Prime itself, bait for the trap. "And the surface defenses?" Susan asked. "Modified as requested. The planetary shield generators appear normal, but have been reconfigured according to Dr. Washington's specifications." Susan smiled. Eric Washington's team had made another breakthrough. They found a way to tune shield frequencies to match the resonance patterns of harvester bioships. If timed correctly, they could disrupt the enemy's organic systems. "The harvester fleet will arrive within 12 hours, Zexthal said. "Are you certain this strategy will work?" Susan looked him in the eye. "In war, nothing is certain. But on Earth, we learned that sometimes you must take calculated risks." The harvester fleet arrived exactly as predicted. 80 massive bioships approached Kaldor Prime, their organic hulls pulsing with energy. They easily pushed aside the small, Confederate defensive force. From her command chair on the Defender, Susan watched calmly. "Let them get closer to the planet," she ordered. "We need them within the gravity well." Confederate officers shifted nervously. This went against all their training, allowing the enemy to reach the planet they were supposed to protect. The harvester ships entered orbit around Kaldor Prime. Their weapons began firing at the planetary shields. "They're following the expected pattern," Susan's tactical officer reported, "adapting to the shield frequencies." "Commence Operation Trojan," Susan ordered. On the planet below, engineers activated the modified shield generators. Instead of repelling the harvester attacks, the shields began to emit frequencies that matched the harvester bioship's own energy patterns. The effect was immediate. The organic components of the harvester ships began to vibrate wrongly. Their hulls distorted as their biological systems went into shock. "Now!" Susan commanded. The Confederate fleet emerged from the asteroid field, attacking from behind. But, unlike previous battles, they didn't use their energy weapons. Each ship had been equipped with human-designed railguns and projectile weapons. The harvester ships, their adaptive systems disrupted by the planetary shields, couldn't respond effectively. Physical projectiles tore through their weakened hulls. Susan opened a channel to General Alan Foster, who commanded a group of smaller, faster ships. "General, execute Phase 2. Foster's voice came back confident. "With pleasure, Admiral." His ships darted between the larger harvester vessels, firing specialized warheads at point-blank range. These weren't simple projectiles but contained electromagnetic pulse generators designed by Dr. Washington's team. When they detonated, the pulses interfered with the connection between the organic and technological components of the Harvester ships. Some lost power completely. Others began firing randomly, hitting their own vessels. In the Confederate Command Center on Caldor Prime, alien officers watched in amazement. "It's chaos," one said. "There's no formation, no pattern to the attack." Admiral Zexathal nodded. "That is the essence of human warfare, controlled chaos." The battle lasted only 3 hours. By the end, 65 Harvester ships had been destroyed. The remainder retreated, badly damaged. It was the largest defeat the Harvesters had ever suffered. In the aftermath, Susan met with the Confederate High Command. Supreme Commander Thrix seemed almost humble. "Your strategy was unorthodox," he admitted, "but effective beyond our expectations. The Confederate military formally requests that Earth provide more veterans to train our forces." Susan looked around the room at the alien commanders. Only months ago they had laughed at human warfare. "We will provide whatever assistance you need," she said. "But understand this. Winning this war will require more than just adopting our weapons and tactics. You must change how you think about warfare itself." "Explain," Thrix requested. The Confederacy sees war as a science, precise, predictable, ruled by technology. Humans see it as both a science and an art. We understand that chaos, deception, and psychological factors are just as important as firepower. The alien commanders considered her words. "To defeat the Harvesters," Susan continued, "we must combine your advanced technology with our experience and adaptability. Neither alone will be enough." After the meeting, Susan stood at a viewport looking out at the stars. Admiral Zexthal joined her. "When we first met," he said, "I thought humans were primitive. I was wrong." Susan smiled slightly. "A common mistake. People often confuse technology with effectiveness. The Harvesters are gathering their forces for a major assault," Zexthal said. "Our intelligence suggests they will attack multiple systems simultaneously." "Then we'll be ready," Susan replied. "And this time, we'll fight as true allies." Across Confederate space, human veterans were teaching alien soldiers how to think differently about combat. On Earth, factories worked day and night to produce specialized weapons. The galaxy had stopped laughing at human warfare. Now they were depending on it. And somewhere beyond the galactic rim, the Harvesters were learning a painful lesson. Humans might lack advanced technology, but they understood war in ways the galaxy had forgotten long ago. The galaxy laughed at human warfare until Earth's veterans entered the battle part. 6 months after the Battle of Caldor Prime, the war had reached a stalemate. The Harvesters had stopped their advance but remained a deadly threat. The time had come for a final solution. On the Confederate capital world of Xyloria, a special meeting took place. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with representatives from every Confederate species. For the first time, humans sat at the high table, no longer treated as primitives. Ambassador Laura Mitchell, who had once been mocked during her first contact with the Confederacy, now addressed the Council as an equal. "The defensive war cannot continue forever," she said. "The Harvesters adapt to each new tactic we develop. We must take the fight to them." Supreme Commander Thrix nodded his insectoid head in agreement. "We have located the Harvester homeworld, beyond the galactic rim, but our scouts report its defenses are formidable." General Alan Foster stepped forward. He wore a new uniform that combined Confederate and Earth military styles. "The Confederacy has never faced an enemy like this before," he said. "But humans have fought ourselves in countless wars. We've learned that sometimes victory requires bold action." He activated a holographic display showing the Harvester homeworld. It was a massive planet surrounded by bioships and defensive structures. "A direct assault would be suicide," Admiral Zexathal said. "Agreed," Foster replied. "That's why we won't launch one." He explained the plan. It was unlike anything the Confederacy had ever attempted. Not a massive fleet battle, but a precision strike targeting the Harvester leadership. Intelligence suggests the Harvesters operate as a hive mind controlled by a single queen, Foster said. We believe she coordinates all Harvester activities from their central hive on the homeworld. Laura watched the alien representatives react with shock as Foster outlined the mission. A small team would infiltrate the planet, while the main fleet created a diversion. This plan, Supreme Commander Thrix's voice trailed off. It risks many lives for an uncertain outcome. All war is risk, Foster replied simply. But sometimes a small team can accomplish what an entire fleet cannot. The council debated for hours. Finally, they voted. The plan was approved. Colonel Ryan Martinez prepared his team aboard the stealth ship Shadow Dancer. At 45, Ryan had served in every branch of Earth's military. He specialized in covert operations behind enemy lines. His team consisted of 12 humans, all veterans, of Earth's most elite special forces units. They had spent weeks training together, learning to move and think as one. Final gear check, Ryan ordered. The team inspected their equipment. They carried no energy weapons, which would be easily detected. Instead, they had combat knives with molecular edges that could cut through almost any material. They had specialized projectile weapons with sound suppressors. Their armor was lightweight but reinforced with alien materials. Dr. Eric Washington had designed special devices for the mission. These will disrupt the Harvester communication frequencies, he explained, showing Ryan a small black box. It should hide your presence from the hive mind temporarily. The main Confederate fleet, led by Admiral Susan Hayes, would attack the outer defenses of the Harvester system. While the enemy was distracted, the Shadow Dancer would slip through to the planet's surface. As they prepared to depart, Supreme Commander Thrix visited the ship. He looked at the human team with new respect. Your species once seemed primitive to us, he admitted. We believed warfare was about technology and numbers. You have taught us it is also about courage and innovation. Ryan nodded. Different roads, to the same destination. The mission began 3 days later. The Confederate fleet launched its attack on the Harvester system. Hundreds of ships engaged the outer defenses, drawing the enemy's attention. The Shadow Dancer, using stealth technology combined with human deception tactics, slipped through the chaos. The small ship landed in a remote area of the Harvester, homeworld, its presence masked by the battle raging in orbit. Ryan led his team across the alien landscape. The planet was a disturbing combination of technology and biology. Buildings seemed to grow from the ground like twisted trees. The surface pulsed with strange energy. They moved silently, using every skill learned in Earth's conflicts. When Harvester patrols approached, they didn't fight unless necessary. They hid, using patience and stealth, tactics the Harvesters had never encountered. 5 kilometers to the central hive, whispered Lisa Daniels, Ryan's second in command. She had fought in the jungle campaigns on Earth, where moving unseen was the difference between life and death. As they got closer to the central hive, the team activated Dr. Washington's devices. The small black boxes emitted frequencies that confused the Harvester communication network. They entered the central hive through a waste disposal channel. The inside was even more alien. Tunnels of organic material that seemed alive, pulsing with energy. The air was thick and humid. According to the scans, the Queen should be in the central chamber, Ryan said quietly. The team moved deeper into the hive. Twice they encountered Harvester guards, strange creatures that were part organic, part machine. They silenced them, quickly with their knives before they could alert others. Finally, they reached a massive door blocking their path. Shaped charges, Ryan ordered. Minimal explosion. They placed the charges carefully. The explosion was no louder than a cough, but it created an opening large enough to slip through. Beyond the door was a vast chamber. In its center sat an enormous creature, 3 times the size of a human with multiple limbs and a pulsing brain visible through a transparent membrane. Around her, hundreds of smaller Harvesters worked at biological control panels. That's her, Ryan whispered. The Queen. For a moment, the team stood frozen, taking in the sight. Then the Queen turned her massive head toward them. She had sensed them despite the disruption devices. A strange voice filled their minds. Humans, the primitive species. Ryan didn't hesitate. He signaled his team to spread out as the Harvester guards moved to attack. What followed was combat unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Not the ordered formations of Confederate warfare, nor the overwhelming force of Harvester attacks. It was human combat, desperate, adaptable, and utterly determined. The team used everything at their disposal. They turned the environment against their enemies, creating distractions and choke points. They used hand signals to coordinate without speaking. Ryan fought his way toward the Queen. When his weapon ran out of ammunition, he used his knife. When a Harvester guard knocked the knife from his hand, he used his fists. He reached the Queen as Lisa and the others held off the guards. The massive creature tried to invade his mind, but Ryan had been trained to resist such attacks. "The galaxy doesn't belong to you," he said, as he placed the last of their explosives on the Queen's life support systems. The team retreated the way they had come, fighting every step. 3 of them fell, but the rest made it back to the Shadow Dancer. As they lifted off, Ryan activated the detonator. The explosion wasn't large, but it didn't need to be. It severed the Queen's connection to the hive mind. Throughout the system, Harvester ships suddenly lost coordination. Some shut down completely. Others began attacking each other in confusion. Admiral Hayes watched from her command ship as the enemy fleet fell into chaos. "All ships, press the attack," she ordered. The UI war didn't end that day, but its outcome was no longer in doubt. Without their Queen, the Harvesters could not coordinate their forces. System by system, they were pushed back beyond the galactic rim. 1 year later, on the anniversary of the mission, a ceremony was held on Earth. The Confederate leadership stood alongside human officials as a monument was unveiled. A simple stone obelisk with the names of all who had fought in the war, human and alien alike. Supreme Commander Thrix addressed the crowd. "When we first met humans, we laughed at their primitive weapons and tactics. We believed warfare was about technology. We were wrong. The humans taught us that true warfare is about adaptability, courage, and the will to survive against all odds." Ambassador Laura Mitchell stepped forward. "Together, we have achieved something neither of us could have done alone. The Confederacy provided the technology, and Earth provided the experience and innovation. From this day forward, we stand as true equals in the galactic community." The galaxy had stopped laughing at human warfare. Instead, they now studied it in their military academies and honored it in their histories. And when new threats appeared, at the edges of known space, it was to Earth veterans that the galaxy turned first.